And today it's been announced that Prince Andrew will be stepping away from all of his 230 charity patronages.
Well, our royal editor Camilla Tominey is here with the latest. We're also joined live from Los Angeles by Gloria Allred, the lawyer representing 5 of Epstein's victims. Morning, Camilla.
Morning. Morning, Camilla.
And so the story that continues to rumble,
yes.
more and more and more coming out, and so we have a new name now, Tiffany Doe.
Yes, well, Tiffany Doe has come into the frame. She had previously been quoted as saying that she had had interaction with the Duke of York during a time when she was staying with Epstein. She's making allegations that effectively the Duke of York motorboated her. I don't know whether you know what that phrase means, but it basically means when a man is completely inappropriate and kind of puts his head between a woman's breasts.
Right.
So obviously really unpleasant. That's coming at the back of a weekend of, as you both say, yet more allegations. This announcement that he's stepping back from the patronages is significant. We knew when he made that statement that he was saying he was stepping back from public life for the foreseeable future. We tried to quantify that. How long does that actually mean? Some people were saying, well, it's only a few months while he gets this mess straightened out. Others said, no, this is early retirement. Well, it does seem like early retirement if he is now distancing himself from the entirety of his royal work.
There's another Epstein accuser, and this is Shante Davis, and she says that Epstein bragged about his friendship with the prince. Obviously, the prince have said, well, they weren't really friends. She said things in his house that there's been framed photos of the two together, suggesting that this was quite a friendship if you're going to put photos up like that.
We know that Epstein bragged about some of the very high-profile people he was connected to, Bill Clinton, the Duke of York and others. In the interview with Emily Maitlis that he did for Newsnight, the now fateful interview, he said, well, we weren't actually that close, although he said he didn't have any regrets over the relationship because Epstein opened new doors and made new connections for him, which people found a rather cynical response to the fact that he'd continued a friendship with a convicted sex offender after he was released from prison. Now it seems that they were close in the sense that Epstein had these photographs, but also it plays into this narrative that Epstein used the Duke of York as bait of some kind to sort of say to these women, oh, well, there's going to be a royal prince there. Why don't you come along? And this is the whole problem, really. Although there is still this vehement denial of any sexual impropriety by the Duke of York, it's the association and the lack of judgment he showed in maintaining that. This sense as well, and I'm sure Gloria will speak to it later, where a lot of the victims are saying, Epstein's house was like a so-called railway station. The Duke admitted that himself. There were women coming and going, young women, suspiciously young women in some cases, and Epstein had a different girl on his arm every 5 minutes. Surely that should have rung alarm bells with the prince. Why didn't he call it out? Why didn't he call out that behaviour and say, is this actually right and appropriate? What these victims are saying is that he was part and parcel of that behaviour and not only condoned it, but involved himself in it.
And so what is Ghislaine Maxwell's part in all of this? Because they had a meeting on the 6th of June, 2 weeks after it was said that the reopening of the case against Epstein was going to happen. And so what was that meeting about, and where is she now?
Well, where is Ghislaine Maxwell? Maxwell was once Epstein's girlfriend and later became his closest female friend, who is accused of procuring these young girls from school playgrounds and other areas to come and massage him at his homes in New York and Miami. We now know from the victims that far more than massages took place, and in many cases rape has been claimed. Maxwell is the subject and is needed for questioning by the FBI.
She hasn't been formally accused of anything.
Hasn't been formally accused of anything, just wants to be questioned as a witness, but yet her whereabouts remain unknown. Could be in London, could be in America. The authorities do say they know where she is, and I think now she is preparing to make herself known this week, we understand, but we don't know whether that's to a journalist or to the authorities.
Well, let's talk to Gloria Allred now, who is representing the 5 victims, or 5 of the victims. She's in Los Angeles now. Good morning, Gloria. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You are insistent that he should speak to the investigators.
Well, absolutely. To the Federal Bureau of Investigation, because you're right, there is an ongoing and very serious criminal investigation being conducted by the investigators for the United States Justice Department for the Southern District of New York. And they need to have all relevant information, certainly because Prince Andrew was in the homes of Jeffrey Epstein in New York, apparently in Palm Beach, in the Virgin Islands, and visited him in London and who knows where else. he may have information that's relevant to this criminal investigation.
And so, Gloria,
you mentioned the railway station, women coming in and out, young girls. What were they doing there?
So you are building this case yourself. I mean, when will you want to speak to him? And if so, when is that going to happen?
Well, there is the civil case, and we did file 3 civil lawsuits this week for 3 young women who alleged they were underage victims of Jeffrey Epstein. And we'll see whether there are more in the future, but there's the criminal track, and then there's the civil track. So we will have a right to conduct discovery, in other words, investigate. We are suing the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, and we are seeking damages, compensation for the harm that was done to our clients, and punitive damages, damages to punish the estate, essentially, that represents Jeffrey Epstein for what was done, because what was done to these girls shocks the conscience of the community. Therefore, damages to punish are in order.
Would you come to London to meet with him? Is that a request that you've made?
No, we've not made the request yet because we've just filed the lawsuit. It will be served, and then there will be an answer that the estate will give. But this criminal investigation has been ongoing for some time. We know that in July, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested at the airport when he landed in New York from Paris. And at that time, there was also an indictment that alleged that there were co-conspirators. So although the case against Mr. Epstein is dismissed, the criminal case, because he's deceased, that investigation of others who may have conspired continues. I've urged Prince Andrew to come forward voluntarily and not to go through any kind of legal technicalities, not to put up roadblocks, but to volunteer any information he may have to the Federal Bureau of Investigation as soon as possible. Time is of the essence. These victims have been waiting for so long for justice, which they have been denied in the past. It's long overdue for them. And I think that the Prince may have information that could help in this investigation.
Gloria, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Princess Beatrice and Sarah Ferguson we are led to believe, to help to set up that interview.
The Duchess denies that because she was away abroad, and actually she was partly in Saudi Arabia, which has created another dialogue around this story in the papers at the weekend. Beatrice sat in on it and apparently thought that it had risk attached to it, but I think sat in on it in her mother's absence, and so now she's been seen as complicit and has been upset ever since.
What sort of shadow does this cast over the Beatrice's wedding?
Well, sources close to the family are saying that it's going to be a very low-key affair, and we would expect that.
Which is not what it was going to be.
Well, I think the Duchess of York got a big wedding out of her system when Eugenie got married. We covered it on this show, didn't we? So it was always going to be low-key, but I think any suggestion they're splashing the cash now is just totally inappropriate. Equally, following on from what Gloria said there, questions are now being asked of the Met. Why didn't the Met follow up on some of these claims? Because they're alleged to have happened in London in 2015. We've also got some MPs who told me at the weekend, I ran this story in the Telegraph, that they think the Public Accounts Committee should investigate what Pitch at Palace is all about and whether there are allegations that are founded that there's some money, some kickbacks being fed back into the system because 2% of everything that the entrepreneurs earn goes back into Pitch. The Palace has said that's stopped now. They're stripping the at Palace bit from that organisation. But still, the Duke wants to continue running that, and his closest aide, Amanda Thirsk, is at the helm of it, a director of that company. So there's, again, a lot more questions than answers around this story.
Thank you.
Camilla.
Thank you very much. Thank you.